Attention.
Atención.
Rosetta Stone invites you to be a part of its biggest language learning event in history. Because in 2011, we want to help 3 million people learn a new language. That's why we're going to give you an absolutely free demo CD-ROM of our language immersion technology. Call 1-800-921-6695. Developed to fully immerse you in your new language, the Rosetta Stone solution is easier than ever before. For your free demo CD-ROM, call 1-800-921-6695. 1-800-921-6695.
Blog Talk Radio.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Superhero Academy. This is your host, Crossfire the Crusader, and we are without a visiting professor this week due to a last-minute scheduling conflict. Apocalypse Meow has had to postpone her appearance, and I wish her the best of luck today. I hope she gets to feeling better and gets her situation worked out. I look forward to having her on here sometime down the road. And, of course, Executrix, who was originally supposed to be here, also had a scheduling conflict about 2 weeks ago. Let me know if she wasn't going to be able to be here. So today we are pretty much an open forum. I'm expecting a few people to call in and join the discussion. If you want to be part of this, the call-in number is 917-889-3317. That's 917-889-3317. Call in and be part of the discussion. And on the line with me, I have one guest. Please tell everybody your name again, please. Area code 850.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Tell everybody who you are.
I'm Black Cruz of Milton, Florida.
Good to have you on here. Pretty much an open format today. I've been trying to get a hold of Luna Vale because she was participating in an event this past weekend that kind of interested me, and I wanted to hear some more about it. That's what they call the Slut Walk. It has to do with the victim's right. And ironically, I got to see some of this firsthand last night. It's kind of what I want to discuss with people. What the Slut Walk, the event, I have the name on it kind of unique. It is a protest. They're being done nationwide, having to do with victims of sexual assault being accused of enticing the attackers by the way they dress or the way they act. And so they started a fight. I'm not sure how long ago, but what they do is they do an actual event that people get together, they dress however they want to do it. They go out there and make the point that that a woman or a man does not encourage this crime by the way they dress. It is not their fault if they are attacked. It's not their fault if somebody comes after them. It's the fault of the criminal. I've got another caller here, so 727.
It's Superhero. You know what to do.
Hey, welcome, Superhero. Well, as I was saying, of course, just kind of thinking, I was hoping Luna Vale would call in and talk to us about the Slut Walk that she participated in this past weekend, because I just wanted to know a little bit more about that. But I got to see an ugly side of humanity this morning. I'm not going to get too many details because it is work-related, but I was called to a business a friend of mine was working at, because of a situation. He had two men, not the gentlemen, that had attacked a woman, and the woman had come to him for help. He called me over there to kind of give him some protection while he was trying to get the police there for her, and we were able to make the men leave. But when the police showed up to take the report, the officer looked the woman up and down and pretty much assumed that she was a prostitute. And when she told him that she had been attacked and that they were trying to kill her, he said, "What do you want me to do about that?" And I was furious. I mean, we had a person here, a human being who had been violated, obviously assaulted, and nobody cared because she was viewed as a citizen. And I was just pretty much like, welcome to the world of Jack the Ripper. You have just dehumanized this person and her life. And I didn't feel that was really fair. And we have Superhero has fallen off the line there. I hope it does get a chance to call back in. There he is. Superhero, you're right.
Sorry about that. I had to change lines. The other one was going in and out on me.
I understand. But what I was saying is, this morning I had a situation where a woman was assaulted, and because she was supposedly viewed, most likely a prostitute, the police didn't even seem to care that she had been attacked, and even threatened to take her to jail because she was defensive when they confronted her about it. She told them the guy had tried to kill her, that he had threatened to kill her, that he had beaten her, and also said, "So what do you want me to do about it?" And I'm just like, what a poor attitude, for somebody who's taking up the cause to serve and protect and present to a person, that it's you dehumanize people, making the victim into the criminal, and it's wrong.
Oh, well, I couldn't agree more with that, but like I said, that's probably one of the reasons why people go out and do assault prostitutes and things like that. What are they going, they probably assume in the first place that no one is going to challenge them on it. I mean, it's very unusual for the woman to even go to the police and say, "Hey, I was out hooking and I got assaulted while I was hooking." It startles me that not only did they not do anything to the assailant in the case, but they didn't press charges against her as well while they were pressing charges against the assailant.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I had to, in my situation, I intervened between the officer and the victim, and was able to convince him to offer her a ride home and get her to a safe position and not continue what he was doing. But I was very upset. We sat and discussed it for a long time afterwards, and I made note that they never caught Jack the Ripper, but Ted Bundy murdered college students, and they went right after him. We've got another caller, area code 404. You're on Superhero Academy.
Hello, Crossfire. It's Danger Woman again.
Hello, Danger Woman.
Hi, Danger Woman.
And who am I speaking with this lovely afternoon as our guest superhero and professor?
Well, no professor this week. We're just having an open roundtable discussion, kind of resting up from last week's supervillain invasion, and I appreciate you having my back on that and staying where you were ready for the call.
I should mention that I'm reading about today's topic. It says something about random discussions on things like the blaming of victims of crimes instead of their attackers. And the reason why I'm here is to relate to you a story that really happened in a Midwestern city in which a blind woman was victimized not only by a bad man who raped her, but also by the governor and the mayor and the police chief of that state. I think it was in Ohio where it happened.
I remember
Dayton, Ohio.
This morning. I remember seeing something about that this morning. I was kind of stunned. It was just it's like it all came to converge at one point to bring this topic out today. So much stuff about it popped up.
What I mean is this really happened. This person was a crime victim, and she was blind.
Why weren't there any charges pressed? Because she couldn't identify her attacker, or?
She did identify her attacker by his voice, And then
I
there
was
was
just
a big
going to say.
trial in kangaroo court, and the bad man was found guilty, but the mayor and the police chief didn't take her seriously. And because of it, she had no choice but to sue him in U.S. District Court for violating her civil rights under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And because of it, she won $20 million. And they had to publicly apologize to her on national TV in front of 75 million viewers on CNN and Fox News by looking her in the blind eyes and say you're sorry. That's what the federal judge said. I'm not kidding.
Oh, I remember reading about that. Now, what I wanted to kind of touch on is that, I've seen this from the police this morning, but I've seen it from other people too. People in the real-life superhero community, people in the community I live in, and it's real easy to dehumanize a person. You look at somebody and it's like, this person is a crackhead, this person is a prostitute, this person is a this person is a that. But at the point that they become the victim of a crime, at the point that somebody harms them, I remember Urban Avenger talking about he had broke up a fight. The guy had sucker punched him and took off running, and when he chased the guy around the corner, the guy turned around and the guy was bleeding from his face. He'd been injured, and immediately he went from being the pursuer to being the first aid provider because that person at that point had become a victim, he had become injured, and he took care of him. And I thought, how noble is that, But, I think so many cases of, over the years of, well, this person, I don't want to hear what their crime was committed against them because they're, X type of person. They're the wrong kind of person. They're from the wrong side of the tracks. They live the wrong kind of lifestyle. And I'm thinking, what does it matter? What does it matter if a woman is a stripper or a prostitute or, a promiscuous or drunken or dressing, provocatively? What does it really matter when the line is crossed? How does somebody justify it, whether they're a police officer or a cab driver or something like that, further victimizing this person by allowing it to happen and doing nothing about it? And what can we do to change that kind of situation in our communities?
Well, it kind of also reminds,
Well,
I was just trying to formulate an answer here. I said this whole thing, including the one with Danger Woman brought up, all kind of sounds like years ago. Remember in the Jeffrey Dahmer case where one of his victims managed to get away, and the police took him back to Dahmer. It seems to me in a lot of cases that that just seems like they wouldn't rather be bothered, like cynicism is a factor in this kind of thing. They just assume that Dahmer's victim was his gay lover, took him back there, turned him over, and of course Dahmer ate him. This thing now, without knowing all the facts of it or anything, but to me it sounds like, prostitute complains that a John slapped her around, they don't care. And maybe it just, we aren't infected with that kind of cynicism, that they see every day.
I made a comment in talking with the person that had called me to assist him this morning. I said, when Jack the Ripper was murdering, they didn't look as hard for him because he was killing, he was killing prostitutes, killing people that didn't matter. I think it was another one of the Rippers, the Yorkshire Ripper, I believe is the name. They didn't in the investigation until he killed a college student.
It's too bad that Razorhawk isn't on the line. He's an expert on that Whitechapel case.
Oh, I'm fairly familiar with it, but you look at Ted Bundy when he did his killing. It was immediately an outrage because these were good, clean, American college students. This wasn't people that were viewed as less than human, and the response was different. And I'm thinking, what gives anybody the right to dehumanize somebody based on their lifestyle, whether they're sexual?
Well, like I said, in the years that I've been working with Team Justice and been out in the streets and seen a lot. And before that, before I was with Team Justice, and even from the poorest person to the wealthiest person, usually the best way to look at it is to treat them all based on their actions. I've been in places where the homeless people were, just as right as rain and as sharp as a tack and very grateful for what you brought them and things like that. Then I've been in places where if it didn't look like they could sell what you brought them for drugs, they would throw it at you. So
I'm looking here
sure
in the chat room. Sanatu, and I hope I said that right, has posted a link on a news article about a homeless man, a mentally ill homeless man who was beaten to death by police officers out in California.
I know about that one. He had schizophrenia, and his rights were violated under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and his father's going to sue them for $20 gajillion.
Even even with that, his good grief. Where you look at cases like the Rodney King case, and when they went overboard on him, you look at there's so much situations where a person becomes less than a person in someone's mind, and they, this is what the Nazis.
That's Crossfire.
That's what
when you mentioned about Rodney King, you forgot about the Rodney King of the disabled, which I was when I was starting out.
There's so much situation like that. Whether it's somebody who is like in your situation that has a disability, whether it is somebody that is homeless, whether it is somebody who is less than a desirable element of society. I don't care, It's easy to look at somebody like, say, Osama bin Laden and say, this is a man whose rights were violated, and not care because he was such a horrendous person. But just the same, what gives anybody the right to make that decision,
Well, I don't think anyone really does have the right.
No.
Like you said, it definitely should be, don't judge them except, based upon their actions. I've known people in the past that I've bent over backwards to help that have ended up stabbing me in the back, things like that. Then I've known people who were perfect strangers who went out of their way to assist me, help me, whatever, you have. But in this particular case, like I said, it just, without knowing all the facts and everything of it, it's kind of dumbfounding to me. I mean, you said something. What was the exact specifics of it?
The woman had come in. The guy brought the woman into the business with them, and they were trying to force her to leave with them. And she asked for help. She told the person working there she would help me. And he said, "You don't want to go with them?" She says, "No, help me." And he got her to a place away from them, safe from them, called me over because he needed somebody to help him back because there was two of them there. And we called the police, and I kept her safe while he dealt with the police. And, of course, when the officer shows up, immediately he becomes accusatory towards the woman. And I thought, we called you here because this woman was asking for protection. And he didn't want to hear what I had to say. He didn't want to hear what she had to say. And ultimately, I had to intervene between the officer and the woman to calm her down and to calm him down and to say, okay, look, what we need to do is get her away from you where she goes. Can you get her a ride to her home, which is only several miles from here? And he offered her a ride to her home from there.
So basically, she wasn't even in the performance of her job at the time. This guy just wanted to force this woman to leave with him, and you prevented it, and then the police could have cared less.
Exactly. And and it's not the first time I've seen something like this happen. Bias is the enemy of justice, in my opinion. Bias is the enemy of community service. You are biased against or prejudiced against any group, any race, any religion, any whatever. You have weakened your ability to serve and to protect. And, I keep saying this morning, why would somebody put a badge on? Why would somebody wear the uniform and take the oath to serve and protect if they're going to treat people like that?
Well, yeah, it just obviously lowered your opinion of them.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not going to live up to the standard of,
it's the same
serve and protect.
It's the same thing I say to people in the real life superhero community. Why go to all the effort of creating a persona, a character, a costume, to go out and do this acts of community service, these acts of community security, community protection, whatever you want to call it, street ministry, patrolling, whatever. Why go to all this trouble if you're only going out there to make yourself look good and then not care about the people you're interacting with? When you just see the streets are filled with people and you're looking down on the city and they say, protect me, and you say no, like the comic book, like the Watchmen, you've forgotten the reason that you're needed. You've forgotten the oath you took. You've forgotten what you wanted to do when you became a police officer, an EMT, a firefighter, a real-life superhero, or whatever it is you chose to serve the world as. And, it cannot click in my brain how somebody could become so jaded that they would allow another human being to be beaten simply because it was somebody they didn't see as desirable.
Man, that is horrible.
I didn't catch your name, sir. I didn't catch the name of the other person, Crossfire.
Oh, we're talking to superhero.
Well, hello, superhero, my old friend. It's good to hear from you again.
Yeah, it's good to hear from you too, Danger Woman. I was just going to say again, too, as down as you're feeling about this, Crossfire, I think what you really have to translate it into is every time you see a situation, do not allow yourself to be that way. Because I think that is about the only lesson that all of us can really learn from this one, as sad as it is. We don't have the ability to change it, but we do have the ability to learn from it. And like I said, I think all you can do from now on, is, especially since it happened in front of you, is just, you do not want to be that guy.
Definitely. And I'm glad you called in because of your close relationship working with the police over the years. What would you do in a situation like this? I mean, is it something you would report to their superiors? Is it something you just take a mental note of? What do you do? Because it feels just as bad to ignore the situation as what happened in the first place.
Well, you see, the thing is, it's not really that's a good question. Like I said, I've got some friends that I work out with that are police officers, SWAT guys, yada, yada, yada. I don't think any of them would ever do something like that, but if one of them did, I don't know if I would, make it a case for IA or something like that before I went to some of their brother officers, maybe, if I knew any of them, and said, hey, this is what happened. Is there any reason for this? Is there any, rhyme to this? Maybe. But like I said, you're taking a huge, especially as a real-life superhero, you'd be taking a huge risk there because they protect their own. And
maybe they've been punished over this, but maybe just a little sensitivity training or something, in the situation, just a wake up call, hey, look, man, be a little more sensitive toward the situation here. I by no means would want to, this is not worthy of an IA investigation. This is a person with a chip on her shoulder, but there's nothing that says you got to be in a good mood all the time. I know I'm
That's
not.
True too.
But and
you don't have to be in a good mood all the time, but you do have to perform your duties.
Exactly. But it's like, what's the best way to handle a situation like that? That's the question I'm going to be asking for a while. I think in the situation I did the best I could by negotiating between them and getting to a solution that was mutually beneficial with, I kind of felt like that. I wasn't the wrong, I'm not the wrong to do that. I was not the person who was supposed to be doing that. Here, I was the person that had called for the assistance and ended up being the one to take charge of the situation to make it work, because the people that were called in made it worse.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. You could have something blow up in your face by, confronting somebody on a situation like that. It wouldn't shock me at all to have you, have something like that blow up in your face if you were to confront an officer, if you had confronted the officer right there while it was happening. That may not have boded very good for you. There have been plenty of cases where people have...
There's a 763. 763, you're on Superhero Academy.
Oh, hi there. This is Bridges from Seattle.
Say again?
This is Bridges from Seattle.
Hey, well, this is your first time calling. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Sorry to interrupt, but one thing that can also be done if you catch the police doing things that, if like things like victim blaming or, other unacceptable behavior is, at least in Seattle, the Seattle PD is, they've had a lot of issues in the past with things like the woodcarver shooting and a couple of other issues. And the one thing that we've been told by various sources is to go to the media about things, because a lot of police departments, especially in major cities, their public image is critical for them. They have to maintain it, especially for things like election purposes, and that those who are in charge really, they do care about how they're seen in public. So if you catch a police officer doing that kind of stuff, don't be afraid to take it to the media, because that's one way that you can actually have an effect without doing anything like going to IA or anything else.
Well, that's true, too. Nowadays people police the police.
Yeah.
I wish I had a video of it. I mean, that's one thing. I was sitting there going, man, it would have been great if I had a camera, at that point. But just the same, in the end, the result that we wanted to achieve was achieved. The danger was eliminated. The person was brought to safety. But, I sit there and look at it like, I'm just really confused about how someone can have the mentality of making the victim into the criminal. And how common that is. I had forgotten about the wood carver shooting. I remember that was not too far back either.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of see where it comes from, because even in like
the job makes them cynical. A job like that has to make you cynical.
And it's kind of like a defense mechanism. And like one thing that I've always tried to kind of live by is that, I always try and leave myself, I mean, it sucks, but you got to basically be able to have your heart repeatedly broken and stomped on. Otherwise you risk becoming that bitter, cynical person.
Well, you can't let what happened 10 minutes ago affect how you respond right at this moment. You cannot let your last call make you jaded for the next call. Each time you need to approach it with a fresh thing, saying, who's the victim, what's the crime, and what can I do to make it better? That's something I learned along. It's kind of crazy. Well, this has gone rather quickly. I'm going to stay after just a few minutes, and we can wrap this up. I want to remind everybody we've got next week. Next week we've got Razorhawk supposed to be with us to talk about Hope 2011. Looking forward to hear that and hear about Hope 2012. And I'm going to go ahead and give our closing time. Those of you who want to stay on the line and finish this up for a few minutes, do stay there. The rest of you remember we're in a world of spandex and high ideals. Try not to take yourself too seriously, and we're going to play our closing theme.
We're men in light. We roam around the forest looking for light. We're men in time. We run from the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like citizens, but what would you say, or else we'll put out your light. We're men will strike. La 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 We're men when we met, we're men in fight. Yeah! We roam around the forest looking for fight. We're men in time. We run from the ring and give to the fort, that's right. We may look like candy, but don't get us wrong or else we'll put out your mouth. We're men in time, fight, fight. Always on guard, defending the peaceful cry. When you're in a fix, just call for the men in time. We're watch.
Okay, we are off the air right now. We're going to continue on for a few minutes because I do want to wrap this up. I did over here in the chat room, Sinatu posted another mention here that I had forgotten about. I read recently about the police officers in New Orleans who were recently convicted for shooting the people during the Katrina disaster. And I remember reading about that and thinking, you know, these guys were coming across the bridge looking for food when they opened fire on them. They actually tried to cover it up. And so, you know, the police are human too. I understand that, but you know, the dehumanizing of people—that's what the Nazis did with the Jews. That's what the jihadis do with the different religions around the world, whatever side it's coming from. Terrorists all around the world make people into less than human. It makes them easier to kill. It makes them easier to ignore. It makes them easier to neglect. And, you know. I guess I was raised to believe the human life is valuable, and I'm thankful for that. I do want to thank you for the conversation. This was a last-minute show topic change, but it was something that was on my mind today, so I was kind of glad that it did open up and we had something to discuss here. I want to touch base on the show. Is anybody else want to say anything about that before I go to the upcoming week?
That's not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, no. Well, next week, again, like I said, Razorhawk will be back with us again talking about the Successes of Hope 2011 and the plans for the Hope Foundation and Hope 2012. The week after that, we will be learning about the Rain City superhero movement with Phoenix Jones.
Oh.
And I'm looking at that one also.
That would be exciting.
First time I get to hear him without being filtered through some other reporter's bias. You know, this is something that really I'm interested in because we all know how easily things can get twisted. And I'm looking forward to hearing from him firsthand. Because he seems like a really nice guy from what conversations I've had with him.
He's very personable. Very, very personable.
Yeah. The 28th of August, I've got Artistroid back on. We're having another Gadget Sunday, and we're going to talk about the Iron Rad project that he's been working on. September the 4th, we're going to learn about neighborhood watch programs from the Eye. That one, I'm really excited about that one. September 11th, Patriot Day, the 10th anniversary of 911. And Valerie Finnegan from Heroes Fallen Studios will be back talking to us about real adventures, real stories from September 11th and beyond. Their graphic novels they're doing for charity. The 18th of September, the Fox of Albany will be here talking about the Albany Heroes. On the 25th of September, I'm really excited about this one. Seven will be joining us. And we're going to be doing a program on human trafficking and how to recognize the signs of somebody who is a victim of human trafficking, a situation there, and what can be done about that. And then skipping ahead to Halloween. For Halloween, we have the man himself, Santa Claus, here will be joining us. I'm very excited. Anybody in the community, if I had to put somebody number one in the community for the amazing things they do in terms of the Avengers, so I'm looking forward to Halloween. I'm trying to get scheduled with Life to talk about Superheroes Anonymous 5, and several other things in the works right now, so stay in touch, keep in track. Watching the blog, and also we've got the message board set up now. If you're not on my Facebook group for Superhero Academy, just send an invitation. I'll be glad to put you on there. We'll keep track of everything. We do have a message board going up called the RLSH Sanctuary, where we're going to have a drama-free area to discuss these kind of things, keep track of blogs and stuff like that. So a lot of good things going on. I want to thank everybody that called in, made the show a success. We all have things to learn. We all have things to teach, and y'all have made this a great show. So thank you, Bridges. Thank you for calling in. It's an honor to have you. Have to get you back on here someday, and you can be a visiting professor and share more about what you do. Okay. Danger Woman, Superhero, thanks for having you here. Our other guests, our other callers, our chat room, everybody, thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I will see you all next week. Same cross time, same cross channel.
See you then.
Holla back.
Have a good one.
Oh.
Adios.